Hello everybody, welcome back to Sunday Berries. Today we are going to be doing another tutorial, and this time around we're going to do a Zen Pebble Garden. So the reason why I decided to do that is because I've been trying out different swatches. Maybe this is going to be a good palette to work with a Zen Pebble Garden. So we're going to go ahead and do that. The inspiration are a collection of rocks that I have. And as you can see, they have a lot of striations, different colors, different marks that you wonder what kind of history they have. And the combinations are really interesting. As you can see, two different colors, and they come in all sizes and with different marks that are rather interesting. And of course, this one in particular reminded me of Potter's Pink. So that's where it all started. So we are going to take this inspiration and put it into paper, but we are going to add a botanical element to it. So let's go ahead and take a look at the materials that you're going to need. You will be needing your sketchbook or watercolor paper. I will be trying out the Kansan Heritage paper. It is 100% cotton paper. It is 300 GSM, 140 pounds, and it was recommended to me. They said it was comparable to Arches, which is my favorite. So I decided to try it. The first thing that I will say is that this one was a lot more expensive than the Arches that I purchased, and they are both the same size, 10 by 14. So we'll see how they perform, and I'll let you know at the end of the video. You will need your washi tape or your tape of preference to mask off the sides of the paper or your sketchbook. This time around, I'm going to use the Scotch Delicate Surface Tape. And the reason why I'm not using the yellow tape this time around is because this one is a little bit thinner than the other one, and so we're going to be using a purple tape, and I will also be letting you know how this one performs. You will also need your fine liners, markers, and since I have had a lot of questions about the liners that I use, I'm gonna let you know that I mostly use my Sharpie because of this really thin tip. And this one here is an ultra fine point, and it is black. It is water resistant. I also use my Posca pens. As you can see, I have them in white, black. I also have them in gold and silver. So these are wonderful. And as you can see, the tip is fine, but it's not as fine as this one. I have to check if they have the black one in a really fine tip such as this one, which is then comparable to maybe the Sharpie. So this one here is a PC1M, and this one is in black, this one is in white, and this other one is also Posca. It's a PC1MR. So as you can see, it's a very different type of tip, very small. I also have Jelly Roll, which is another type of white pen. I also use Uniball Signal, and these are UM153 in tip size, so they are quite good. I hardly ever use this. I mostly stay around here. You will be needing your brushes. I will be using a size 8 and a size 3 for my smaller details. If I need anything smaller than a 3, then I will go get it. These are my Princeton Aqua Elite. These brushes are synthetic and they work really great. I must admit, I love natural hair, but I have found that these in particular are very, very great brushes, and the price tag is not too stiff. any brush is actually fine. So whatever you have, use it. We'll be doing a combination of things, so do have enough brushes around to play with the sizes if you need to. And the colors that I will be using are by Daniel Smith. Use any color that you want, any color that you feel more attached to. Since we're going to be doing botanicals, do have your greens and yellows around. And for your rocks, try to look for as colorful as you want or as neutral as you want. So it's open to you. You can follow along or you can create your own color scheme. So with that said, we are going to go ahead and start painting. This exercise is really interesting because you get to practice different things, wet and dry, and just a lot of fun. Dry and dry, for example. So as you can see, pebbles tend to be of irregular shapes. So what we're trying to do is some sort of a grouping that might, let me see, that could make sense like that. This is what we are more or less going to be doing. But remember, they are irregular. You don't have to make them all the same, meaning that you don't need perfect circles. So as you can see, I'm going to start with a small pebble towards the top of the page. And what I'm doing is wet on wet. And I will start with my Potter's Pink. And as I mentioned, I'm going to try to keep this one as light as possible. This is also a granulating color, so the granulation, it's going to give us that aspect of a rock, which I find lovely. But you do want to have quite a bit of water to encourage that granulation. And I'm going to remove a little bit of water from the side because I want to establish that the light is coming either from this area or from the top, probably from the top. So we want to keep those areas lighter and the bottom of the rock darker. Now that we have our first pebble, I'm going to be mixing some colors here. So I'm going to be using that lunar earth. And I'm going to come with a very wet brush, carrying a lot of pigment and carrying a lot of water, because what I want is to merge this one with the one above so the colors can actually work together. And again, this is also a granulating color, so I do want to encourage the granulation. So now I'm going to add Van Dyke Brown here to add a different tone, a different color, a different hue to the rock, but also to start creating a little bit of shadow. And with a drier brush, we're going to remove just a tiny bit on this side because this rock right here is preventing the light coming in here. So we want to remove in the corner. we go. So now I'm going to come with Lunar Black, and I'm going to do maybe a different type of shape here. Again, we want them to touch. And now we're going to go ahead and do the same thing once again. So I told you I am taking care of my niece's dog, right? So she's here, she's woke. She's woken up from her nap. So that means I'm going to have to take her out in a few minutes. So don't mind the noise. Going to add Van Dyke Brown here as well. And what I do want to do is add a little bit different, just a tiny bit of a different color to create some interest. And what I did was add Potter's Pink here and Quinacridone Gold on this one. All right, and then going to create a brown, a bluish brown, and create another rock here. Oh, maybe that's too dark, so and adding just darker colors towards the bottom. A little bit of water as well. And then we're going to go ahead with Lunar Black again and make sure that we touch these other rocks. And the reason why we want them to touch is because we want the colors to merge into one another. And for the last one, it's going to be the base. We're going to use, once again, the Lunar Black. But I'm going to add Van Dyke Brown to that as well. I will also add Quinacridone Gold. So we're doing a rather interesting merge here. Van Dyke Brown towards the bottom. And more Lunar Black. And now with a little bit of Quinacridone Gold and Perylene Green or your rare green earth, we're going to just create our baseline. All right, so as I mentioned before, if you remembered, I mentioned that we were going to be working with a lot of wetness, so that's what we're going to be doing now. We are going to be using a very light quinacridone gold for this one. And we are okay if that touches there, so don't worry about it. And we're going to start working with some leaves, okay? So this is the part where we create our florals. So what I'm doing here is adding just a second color to the first one, so we can have different tones and tonalities, or different tonalities to each of these leaves. So it is quite all right if they mingle with one another. Don't worry about it. It's going to be fine in the end. I hope. Okay, we have one side going. So I'm creating here just a tiny hint of greenery. And again, we're going to start with different leaf shapes. So what I'm doing here is adding a little bit of water and extending the color that I do have in my brush, and then adding if I need more. Okay, I hope everything was visible, and we're going to try to fix this area right here by creating a little bit of a less pronounced mark, but I'm not sure if I'm doing. Layla, be a good girl. Adding a little bit of a dark there, and at this point, what I do want to do is just add some interest in some areas. So I'm going to do a very, very wet addition to these colors. All right, so I'm hoping this is going to look good at the end. I'm not sure, hopefully. But if it doesn't, it doesn't. So I'm going to just wait for this to dry, and then we're going to come back to it and finish it. Let's hope for the best. And we're back. These are dry. And what we're going to start working on is adding a little bit of shadow so the pebbles start acquiring some volume. For the shadow, I am going to be using Van Dyke Brown. And I want to use a very, very gentle, just adding a gentle touch to it. And let me turn it around just a little bit. Dry your excess water from the brush and just try to mingle it with the other color. Wash your brush, dry, and then just mingle it. And as you can see, suddenly the pebble starts getting a little bit of volume to it. And we're going to be doing the same with the next one. Again, very, very light in the beginning. So what we're doing is just giving some volume to the rock, some dimension. And we really do want to separate the rocks from one another. Clean your brush, dry it, and then there we go. We'll probably have to come back to the first one at some point, but for now, we're going to continue down. So we start very, very gentle. And it's going to be the same process. So you can see the texture that the granulating colors are leaving behind is wonderful. And here you see that line. We want to get rid of that line. So just wet your brush and clear it out. This is your time to be able to reshape your pebbles if you need to. And also, we're going to move on to this one. So very gentle at first. Take off the excess from your brush and then dab it in. Clean your brush, dry it a little, and then just lightly spread the area. Clean your brush, dry, and slowly try to dissipate any harsh lines from forming. And I think we're going to need a little bit darker here, but since this one was the lunar black, we're going to use a little bit of that too, so it's a little bit darker. Okay, so we're moving on to this one. Shake off the excess and come in. Clean your brush, dry it a little, and then soften the edge. And the same comes here, but I think we're going to need that lunar black. So I'm going to bring it in. And the same process here. But I will be adding a little bit of brown simply because I want it to be similar shadow color to the rest of the pebbles. So right here where these two rocks are connecting, this rock is casting a shadow here. So we need to add just a tiny bit of color there so we can distinguish one rock from the other. and we can create that casted shadow onto the rock. And this is just the first part of the shadows, because the rock on top is going to also cast a shadow on the rock on the bottom. So we need to go over those new areas. Now this one here, is going to be an interesting one because it's right on the ground. So I want to make sure that it's really defined. I'm using both the Lunar Black and Van Dyke Brown. So I'm doing really tiny dabbing motions with the tip of my brush to add pigment to the area. And we'll be working with a shadow beneath here at a future moment. Okay, so I need to reinforce a few of these shadows, starting with this one. So I do want to add a little bit of Potter's Pink here. And then I'm going to add that Van Dyke Brown. Again with dabbing motions. And I also think we're going to need some more here. I find it super wonderful how a little bit of shadow can do so much. Take off excess. That's a lot. On this one, I really can get away with having a darker or more pigment simply because it is a dark rock. And slowly but surely, we are adding depth and volume to these rocks. I'm always moving my paper around because it's easier and more comfortable to do. Do the same. Don't stick to one position because really it's about comfort and you don't want to be uncomfortable while you're painting. So this one is still damp, but I will come in and get this done. I'm not trying to do this too evenly at the bottom. Now you see the harsh line right here? We need to work on that really fast because otherwise that's going to be rather ugly. So now what we want to do is wait for this to dry. Let me fix this one here. Okay, so now we're going to allow this to dry and we'll move on to the next phase. So I came back because I noticed that these seem as if they are going to tumble. So I need to fix this rock right here. And I will try to do just that. And this one probably. All right, so we fixed that, I hope. And we'll allow it to dry and we'll come back. And we're back. This is very dry, so we can start fixing the next shadows. As I mentioned before, the rock that is on top is going to cast a shadow on the one below, and so on and so forth. So we're going to use that same Van Dyke brown, and we're going to create a shadow area directly underneath the rock. And we're going to do the same here. I'm going to apply a little water first and add Van Dyke brown as well. I also want to add a little bit of that quinacridone gold so it matches this corner right here. And then we're going to soften that edge. So we still need to darken a little more. And right here, we need to adjust this tone because we added this patch and we need it a little bit darker so it blends better. Okay. Now we're moving on to this one here. And what I want to do is use the same color that we used in this one to add a little bit of shadow. That's a lot, so we're going to spread it. And we're going to be adding a little bit of that Van Dyke brown here as well. So we can have both colors going on there at the same time. But of course we want the darkest tone right next to the rock above. Now we're moving on to this one here. And we did quinacridone gold here. So we're going to use that first. We're going to soften the edge. And then we're going to come in right under the rock with our darkest tone, which is the Van Dyke brown. And soften the edge. Now that I'm looking at it, maybe we'll need to go over some of these shadows, but right about now, the one that bothers me most is right here. So we're going to attack this one first. We're going to allow that to blend a little there. And just come in and soften the edge. And I think that looks better. Now we're moving on to this one. We also have a little bit of the quinacridone gold here because of the connection that we did. It's spread out to the one below. So we're going to start with that color, and then we are going to add the Van Dyke brown as well. Right underneath the rock. And here we're going to do the same. So if you feel you need to fix the one above, do it now. I'm adding a little bit of water here first, and then I'm going to add just a tiny bit of Van Dyke brown. So at this point, we're really correcting some areas more than anything else. Here, I think I'm going to need a darker color, so I'm going to use the Lunar Black. So it can blend better. I'm going to add a little bit of the Potter's Pink also. And quinacridone gold. Okay. Here we need to add more darkness, so let's add Van Dyke brown. Allow them to merge really. Okay, and we're going to come back to this one because we need a darker value there. This one is pretty much good, but I'm going to go over it just to make sure. And this one here. Do keep in mind that watercolors will dry a lot lighter. need to intensify some of these shadows. And down here is definitely needed. And this is taking shape. I thought it wasn't going to take shape, but it is. So that is good. Good news. Good news. I was really nervous about this one because it's completely new to me. So when you're working with shadows, remember to think about the shape that you're giving a shadow to. So try to keep it like really close and even a little bit rounded, as you can see here. So it makes sense that the shadow that is coming down, it's not a flat one, but a rounded one. And here we're going to need a little bit more brown as well. All right, it's looking good. So we're going to come down here and start working with the leaves. What we're working on really is our darkest colors now. Here I am fixing some of these leaves that lost their shape. By adding additional color to it. This one is terrible. So let's try and fix that. Something always comes wrong. But yeah, I messed that up. Oh, it's fine. So these flakes are supposed to be grass. We'll see how they come out. So I really did mess that up. That's a shame. We'll see how we will fix that one here, because I think I messed really badly there. But I am not fully myself lately with a new dog in the house. So, okay, so to give this just a tiny bit of something, let's do some tiny see that you need to catch those right away. Dry your brush and come back to it. What I'm doing is dropping a little bit of green into the stems so it can travel to the berries. Now we're just adding some dots, and I am using that perylene green. And I will also use the quinacridone gold. I don't like these. Oh my God. At this point, I'm just trying to fix all the messes that I've got here going on. All right, so this one is really a mess, but we're going to fly with it. Not every painting is going to be a good one. As much as we would like it to be, but I'm sure you guys are going to do so much better than I have. Don't do that line. Okay, let's add our final shadows. Let's allow this to dry and let's see if we are able to fix this one way or another. Okay, so not all is lost yet, and I'm not giving up hope. Let's give it a try and let's allow it to dry. So we're back and this is absolutely dry. So those are good news. The paper so far has been handling very well. I still prefer arches, but this is very comparable so far. And because it's dry, we're going to do some final touches before we start working with our embellishments, okay? So I want to enhance this line here simply because these pebbles tend to have different marks, and so we're going to take advantage of those things. And I also want to enhance a little bit the shadow here. We could do, let's see. These dark lines, but do try to go in favor of the circumference of the rock. And perhaps we could use a Jane's Gray. So I'm going to add Jane's Gray to the mix, mixed in with a little bit of that lunar black. There we go, that looks better. And possibly, let's do another line here. And again, it's curved. It's a curved line. Another line here. So we're adding the striations that we might find in these rocks. They do not always need to be symmetrical. And here we're going to try and do a floral motif. Maybe we could do the same here. So you can decorate this any which way you want, really. And I think we are going to allow this to dry, and now we're going to embellish. Not too much, but we are going to embellish. All right, so we're back, and this is pretty much dry. We're going to reveal this and fix these areas that need a little bit extra space. And the tape worked really well. And the fact that the tape is working pretty well is good news. So here we have it. Not so bad. We still have to work in some areas. And then we need to embellish it. It's not as bad as I thought it would be, including that thing there, but we'll work with it, okay? So let's start by doing that. And what we want to do is just finish these leaves so they look like they have a point there. All right. Maybe we need to fix this one as well. Maybe this one. And maybe this one that doesn't really have a very good shape to it. There we go. The rest of them I'm not complaining about. Now we're going to embellish a little with our markers. You can use your metallic colors if you want. I am going to keep this pretty much neutral, although even as it is, I find really well. Actually, there is one thing that I do need to do before we get there. I want to darken this one here just a tiny bit because it's right on that shadow area. And I would like to darken this one here as well. And we're good. Okay, so let's start by trying to figure out what we're going to do with this, but I need to wait for this to dry. So while that is drying, what I'm going to do is come in maybe with this thin one and add a few lines. Just a sense that there is some grass there. And for these ones, we're going to do tiny little dots just to one side of the leaf. Maybe we can skip one of them. We can do a center one on these ones. So when you're doing embellishments, if you have a dark color, use a light one, and vice versa, so you can see them better. maybe we should do everything the same way. This one here I like as is, so I'm not going to touch that one. So this is basically adding some little tiny circles, which are not going to be too visible, but it's giving it texture. And maybe over here as well. Okay, so we have our rocks done, and what we want to do now is work with our leaves. Okay, and on this one, let's see if we can fix this. That's very dark, but we're going to go with it. Okay, so and just to balance it out, I'm going to bring a little black somewhere here. All right, so whether it's good or bad, it is done. Oh, let me fix something here. Uh, and I forgot about that one. So we are going to all right, so I think this is it. It's done. It's not perfect. We made a big boo boo. Well, I made a big boo boo right there, but it happens. I am trying to get used to a new dog. I'm a little bit tense, and it's taken me forever to even do this video because she requires a lot of attention. So I'm trying to adjust to her, and she's trying to adjust to me. So that's it's bound to happen. But I do hope that you have enjoyed this video. I do hope that you have learned something from it and that you can practice at home and do better than I have done here. I really do like it. I have to say, it's not as bad as I was expecting it to be. It could be better. It could be better. But as I go along, I'm sure we'll revisit this exercise and see how we have changed throughout time as we practice this more and more. I am not so very good at botanicals, and I accept that, and I'm trying to be. So this is my attempt to getting a little bit better on it. I think that the biggest mistake was this line here that I did, which was supposed to be like a long leaf. And after that, trying to fix that and balance this out, it just went a little bit overboard trying to cover, but I'm sure that in time I'm going to get better at it. One last thing that you can do, and I'm going to do it right now so you can see, is that if you don't want this dark white there, you can go over it a little bit with your watercolor and it will accept a little bit of the color and tone it down so it doesn't look so bright, particularly on the dark areas. For example, here, I would probably go over it just a tiny bit so it's not so white, like that. For example, this one here should also be a little bit less bright, so I'm going to cover it a little bit. So this is it. I hope you have enjoyed this tutorial, and hopefully you've gotten away with something that you can expand on, or you have learned something new that you can even better than what I've done here. This is my first try at Zen Pebbles. Hopefully in time I will get better and bring you a better tutorial as well. But without a doubt, I'm really happy about it, and hopefully you have enjoyed it too. So with that said, my friends, if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. It will help me with the algorithm. If you haven't subscribed to the channel and you're wanting to continue to see other content like this one, please do take a moment and subscribe. And if you want to leave your comments, your thoughts, everything, I read every single one of them and I answer every single one of them. And I really do enjoy interacting with you. And also, your input is very valuable to me. So please do leave me a comment. And with that said, please take care of yourselves. Please stay safe. Be kind to one another. And I will see you on the next video. Until then, bye.